Okay. For you and me. Damn, that sugar like kind of hit me. Oh. All right. I just need help with my sound, dude. I don't know how loud everything is. Usually there's like sensitivity in my mic. For some reason, it's just like air. I'm trying to block out the sound. What's up, Poles? How you doing? I would tell you, I've been trying to do this video. I saw Mad's video today, and in combination with Mad's video and then people on Twitter and people on my DM, it's like, I'll do this video. But I tried to do the video, but the video was taking too long, absolutely too long. And I'm like, all right, I'm gonna just go live and call it a day. Prepare for trouble. What is this? What did Xbox's tweet? Oh man. What's up? Tracy got game. Oh man. All right, but we're gonna get into it. So let's start. The title of this video is more so just to play on Mad's gaming. I'm pretty sure you guys are familiar with Mad's gaming. He had a video today. I think it was titled Xbox Series Why Xbox Series X power is being underutilized. Xbox Series X versus PS5. In this video, he shares his frustration about, the Series X, underperforming in relation to the PS5 in these comparison videos. And this is not like a response to him. It's just more of a reaction, because I get DMs every time these comparison comes out. I get DMs of like my take on why this is occurring, or do I think PlayStation did like a better with their, with their system than Xbox, all this other nonsense. And I just honestly have to laugh about it, because there's a lot to take in. This instrumental you're hearing is an Kid Smooth exclusive. This was off my album, my mixtape. But no, it's an exclusive. It's a custom beat for me. That you're hearing in the background. I have about like 30 of them. Because I used to rap, and I just use them as backdrop music, and I'll probably reuse them as a song if I want to. He said Madden on Game Pass. Poles, yeah, we can do it. Poles, don't sleep on me. That's what everybody been doing, just been sleeping on me. All right, so let's talk about this, because we'll have an interesting conversation. If Mads is in here, we could definitely discuss. But I know he's on a different time zone, Poland, I believe. But this is just this video. I just want to make sure it's dedicated to everybody that's hit me up on Twitter and people overreacting to all this stuff. So Xbox Series X being underutilized. PS5 versus Xbox Series X. So let's talk about a couple things, right? Couple things in regards to the Xbox Series X. Firstly, Xbox Series X, PS5, they're very capable machines, unique machines, both set out to deliver 4K, 60 frames, with some, and with the bonus of even hitting 120 frames per second, right? The biggest leap in these games in PS5 and Series X is load times and frame rates. It's not really visual graphics. I mean, ray tracing's there, but ray tracing to me don't mean shit if it's at 30 frames per second. So, because I'm not going to see it unless your game is limited to 30 frames per second and can't run above that. So outside of ray tracing, the biggest leap is higher frame rates, faster load times, right? And there's some system level stuff that, changes the game a little bit. So now, with that being said, I just find it very interesting that people are finding them frustrated because they're learning that a game on Xbox Series X can drop down to 57 frames per second or 56 frames per second, or like in some cases, especially if it's running locked at 60 on the PS5 in that same scenario or in that same location, right? It's just driving people nuts, dude. And my thing is, it's like, bro, I just came off a generation where the average frame rate was like 28.2 frames, right? Like we had games that 27, 22, freaking 30 frames is the cap. I mean, a bonus. I mean, the only games you were getting at 60 were maybe Halo, Forza, and Doom, possibly, right? Like I came off a generation where 60 frames per second was rare outside of racing games, like rare. So I just find it hard. I just can't see myself having a problem with a 60 frame per second game target dropping 2 frames personally for me on a VR display, because I'm not going to know it. I'm not going to, and I haven't. The minute I booted up Assassin's Creed Valhalla for the first time, and I'm sure when that game launched, performance wise, yeah, it was no lock 60, but it was 60 frames per second targeting. Yeah, there was drops and whatnot. Damn, this train. Hold on, I gotta mute my mic right quick. Oh my God, this train. Hold on. Actually, I don't think they're gonna honk again, so we good. All right, so Assassin's Creed, right, was my first. When I first turned on the Series X and I'm playing Assassin's Creed, I immediately noticed the difference. Immediately, because as an Assassin's Creed fan, at least a recent Assassin's Creed fan, where most of my time was spent on Origins and Odyssey, expansive, nice, visually nice looking games, but obviously they were limited to 30 frames per second and below on last gen consoles. And for the fact that I know I'm hitting 60, I'm maintaining 60, sure it's dropping here and there, but it's the best way if I've ever played Assassin's Creed on the console. Especially Assassin's Creed history on PCs, which is difficult to hit 60 frames per second. It was the best Assassin's Creed experience performance-wise on a console, and you think I'm about to complain because, hey, the frame rate might be 5 frames better in this scenario on PlayStation. It wasn't on my mind. I already had the shit on Xbox. I'm sorry, it is what it is. That's where I'm playing it. Like I'm not going to notice. I'm not. I don't, none of these games between Series X and PS5 that I own for both consoles. Not one. If it's the only one that could possibly do that is the free-to-play games, right? Free-to-play games, I think the Call of Duty Warzones, I could probably do, but I'm not installing that shit on the PS5. I barely have the memory left, all right? So, it's not gonna be like, all right, I can't do this here. Let me get my refund from the Xbox version and let me buy it on the PlayStation 5 and just to not notice that difference. Sorry. So, and Nivek, you stop fronting. This whole 400 versus 500, no. There's 2 versions of the PS5. There's one for 400, one for 500. $500 one has a disc drive. That's one's widely more available than the $400 one. So no, you can't eliminate the more expensive one just because there's another option. You can't eliminate that one from existence. It exists. Not you, just because you paid $400 for a PS5 doesn't mean your neighbor paid $400 for a PS5. Nah, you can't do that. You can't. There's no, like, it is what it is. Some of yours might have been $400, but it is what it is, right? So let me continue. So that's one reason why you're not hearing me complain about these performance gaps, is because I'm getting used to getting every game that comes out being 60 frames per second. That's 60. It's awesome. It's like these consoles have made me notice, like, because right now I done played what I don't know how many games that had like 60 frames. That now I notice a clear difference when I'm playing at 30 or if I'm playing like a stuttery ass game. Like now it's completely apparent. Like I will just notice based on play. Like now I no longer need like a digital foundry or to do research to see how good this game is running. I can just tell. So the fact that people are getting frustrated, like I said, I'm getting DMs like, hey, do you think PlayStation does, like, what's going on? Why are their consoles running better? Do you think they did a better console? It's like, no, I'm not a wizard. I'm not a tech whiz. I do understand some basic knowledge of game scaling and engines running. Some things just run better on, PlayStation's API, especially if they're not, optimizing it. I'll say this once. I said this once. I'll say it again. PS5, their whole smart shift doing where they're borrowing from GPU to CPU, the frequencies, I think that's doing them wonders. It's can't be mad at it. I thought it was going to be a piece of shit, but in theory, I mean, in real life function, is doing them wonders, because when it comes to performance of their games, they're maintaining higher FPS in most cases. And when games are taxed hard, when you're looking at both the games, like let's say if they both run a multiplayer game and there's going to be a section of that game where this game is going to either tax the GPU or tax the CPU because they got all these crazy effects and shit. So the frame rate is probably going to stutter here and there on both platforms. But PlayStation's, their system allows that stress to be less, so they're able to maintain a higher frame rate. Even if it drops, it's going to maintain at least a higher frame rate for that section. Whereas the Xbox, whatever Xbox API is or how they do it, it doesn't. It'll drop to wherever it'll make it drop to, and then it'll straighten itself out, or it'll rely on VRR to straighten itself out. And that's what a lot of developers have been doing, is like, all right, this thing supports FreeSync, it supports VRR, it'll work itself out. You know what I mean? And that's what it's pretty much been doing. So a lot of these dudes like are complaining about stuff, and when I'm saying this, I'm not speaking on like Mads or anything like that. I'm just saying in general. A lot of these dudes are complaining about stuff that they're not even really noticing. Honestly, they're not even noticing the difference. It doesn't make that big of a difference. I feel like the little dubs here and there that PlayStation gets, I think they're a freaking completely overblown, because the thing is, the comparisons that they're making with these games is like, it's always the worst case scenario. It's always like this pinpoint spot that you can highlight that you're probably not going to come across again, especially if it's a single player linear game. You're once you get through that part, it is what it is. Sorry, you're not. It is what it is. You want to go back and replay it and see if it was patched later. It is what it is, right? So it's like, bro, and the thing is that fanboys and Digital Foundry go back. They'll loop it, they'll keep replaying it, and people will trick themselves into thinking that, hey, this is the overall experience on this platform, because at this point it drops here, so that's the overall experience. And one of the recent games that has been the recent game that's kind of really got this people in a rut is Need for Speed. Need for Speed Hot Pursuit 2 remaster. So it's a remaster to an old game that came out, years ago. And now I like Need for Speed. I like their games, at least the ones that, like, I like Payback. I think Heat was okay. I just don't like how they implement these online shit. Relying it being like a game as a service. That's what I don't like about it. So I don't last long on Need for Speed after a while. But I do like their mechanics. I feel like their games are always visually like top notch, right? So Need for Speed, I was like, man, Need for Speed needs to start making their games 60 frames per second. Like, me and Dre talked about it in Let's Talk Games podcast like a couple weeks ago. I was like, once they acquire Codemasters, hopefully they can teach them how to update frame rates, because they can never deliver a Need for Speed at 60 frames per second. So Need for Speed gets an update, right? Now, what people are confused by, this is not an actual natural next gen upgrade. What they did was, currently Need for Speed, that game, has two modes on Xbox One X and on PS4 Pro. It has 4K 30, 1080p 60, or at least targeting 1080p 60. What they did was, and so they can lie and say it's been optimized for next gen when it really hasn't, was they added another mode to the Xbox One X and the PS4 Pro version. What they did was, I think they calling it Max or maximum mode, where they take the 4K mode and uncap the frame rate. So obviously, if you play those modes on the One X and the PS4 Pro, you're not going to get 60. I mean, you'll get obviously above 30, but you're not going to maintain 60 in those modes. So it's there really for assuming you have a Series X and a PS5 for it to be okay 4K 60, and for the most part it does it. PlayStation 5 does a better job with it. So those drops that you're seeing occur on Xbox in that map, it's tied to wherever the API or the engine, wherever it is doing. It's not because the system can't handle it. The game just wasn't optimized for it. If they really wanted to port, like, all right, let's see what we can do to improve. Let's add ray tracing here. Let's up the frame rate and stuff like that, and then toggle. All right, where's the stress points? Then they probably would have enabled some sort of dynamic resolution, some shit like that. Did this here to make sure that the frame rate was stable, because obviously in racing games you don't want drop frames. You know what I mean? You're either going to be a lock 30 or you're going to be a lock 60. So the game itself wasn't actually optimized, as this PlayStation 5 is doing a better job running the PS4 Pro game than the Xbox Series X is doing a better job running the Xbox One X version, because the Xbox One X version in that same mode, frame rate is dropping lower than what the PS4 Pro is. I mean, it just is what it is. I mean, if you don't like it, and play it at 1080p 60, you still got that option. But honestly, I mean, a lot of these people isn't playing Need for Speed. I wanted to buy it, but I wasn't buying it until they optimized it for the Series X, which they said they weren't. So when they added this mode, it added intrigue, but I know it'll be in Game Pass in about another month, so I'll play it then. But that's one of the things people are hyping up and twerking to, is that one, and this is one track, by the way. It's one track. Where that thing occurs, the little frame rate drop occurs, but none of you guys would never know if you want, because you're probably not playing the game. And if you were playing the game, you probably didn't notice it, right? The other thing is Outriders. A lot of people are running away with the Outriders demo, which at this point, personally, I didn't know. The only place I noticed a performance difference is when I played on the Series S to capture some gameplay for the podcast, and I was like, this isn't as fluid as what I was just playing on my Series X at all. Like, you could see it was jittery on the screen. It had like kind of this weird blur when you ran through the hub area. It didn't feel as good as when I played it on the Xbox Series X. Now, mind you, the Series X, which I later learned, remember, once again, though, I am playing on a VR display. I later learned the Series X version is literally like, it's a consistent 58, 57 frames per second. Yeah, it'll hit 60 every now, but it just consistently maintained 57, 50, which there's no really real explanation why, because this game, Outriders, is not next gen at all. Not next gen at all. It's not a next gen. This shit got random load times to cross a bridge and shit like that. There's nothing next gen about Outriders at all. I like the game. I like it. I'm gonna buy it, but there's nothing next gen about it. So it's like, how is the Series X not bodying this game? You know what I mean? Even the PS5 have drops. It just wasn't egregious as what the Series X was. But the reason why I'm bringing that up is because realistically, though, 58 frames per second versus 60, you're not going to notice. You're not. And I'm not saying it's acceptable. I feel like they need to fix it just due to principle. But I didn't notice. Like I said, only time I noticed there was a performance issue was when I went to my Series S and I needed to record some gameplay. I was like, shit, this shit ain't playing. This shit ain't playing right. I don't know. This is definitely not like a solid 60. It can't be. But yeah, but people are running. And Mike, this is a demo, so who knows? When a game comes out on April 1st, the game could be a lock 60 on both platforms, and people will forget about it. People probably won't even play it no more because it wouldn't have that advantage no more, but people would still be riding on the demo as they are. But when we look at these things, and I'm sorry, chat, I will get to, like, if you're saying things in the chat and the questions, if I don't get to it, I'm not ignoring you. I just want to get my point across because I get distracted a lot. The thing about the Xbox and the PlayStation, personally, I look at these comparisons, it's like, all right, yes, the PlayStation 5 is getting its dubs, and trend-wise is doing better performance-wise, even if it has to take an L on resolution and textures and stuff. Performance-wise, it is doing its job. I have to give it its props for that, because whatever their smart shift solution of how they're handling performance, their solution right now is proven more efficient or more better served than the Xbox Series X solution to it. So there's no way around it. However, not every game, people are under this impression that every game since launch has been just PlayStation 5 has had the victory, right? First game that they did was, I think, Devil May Cry 5 Special Edition, where the game has uncapped frame rates on all modes. There's 4 modes in the game. The Xbox Series X beats out the PlayStation 5 in 3 of the 4 modes. The only 4 modes where it actually loses is a high frame rate mode, which is at a lower resolution. And not only that, it loses even though both frame rates at the end of the day is averaged around 100 frames per second between the two. It's just that the drops, when Xbox dropped in that mode, I think in that one particular mode, it dropped like significantly lower than what PlayStation was doing in those same areas. But at the end of the day, they end up averaging around the same frame rate. But people run away and say Devil May Cry runs better on the PlayStation 5 when the advantage was Series X in 3 out of the 4 modes, and the 4th mode being a fucking tie. So, literally in terms of average. But so you got that Call of Duty. It was proven Series X runs it better with ray trace enabled. I think the PS5 had a dub in 120 frames mode in one particular section. These sections that everybody keeps highlighting, and they'll tell you, oh, this is the overall experience. The highlight that PS5 did better than Xbox was the helicopter section. This is a campaign part where you're in a helicopter and the frame rate dropped. The Xbox dropped to as low as 100 frames per second. Whoop-de-fucking-do. 100 frames, that's still a lot higher than the fucking 60, a lot higher than 30. 100 frames, oh yeah, I'm gonna complain about that. Oh, because I know in the back of my mind, the PlayStation frame rate is probably running this right now at 112 frames per second, whereas mine just dropped to 100 right here. You probably don't know. That's the shit that people were complaining about. And I think it was also proven that the multiplayer at 120 frames was better on a Series X, but I digress. Other games that are getting these unnecessary comparisons. The only true real dub the PlayStation 5 has over the Series X and 17 was the Dirt 5, the launch code, where still to this day, I don't know, it was the weirdest shit. And what's the other game? Control, because Control is doing a better job ray tracing wise on Series X. The PlayStation's ray tracing solution right now at this point is serving better than DX ray tracing. Like, and I don't know how even good DX ray tracing is. DirectX ray tracing is on PC, but right now they're not really utilizing it to the best of its capability. Right now, there's only really one superb ray tracing experience on Xbox, and it's Call of Duty. In my opinion, I don't. A lot of the games that offer ray tracing, and Watch Dogs is good ray tracing, but I didn't play because I already finished it on the Xbox One X, and ray tracing wasn't enough incentive for me to go through the game and play significantly more time in it to be like, all right, ray tracing, voila. If they would have upped it to 60, I would have played the whole game again because I did enjoy the game. But ray tracing, yeah. So Watch Dogs and Call of Duty probably are the best representations of ray tracing on Xbox. PlayStation right now has better representation of ray tracing on their game. Spider-Man obviously being the de facto, Control being a better, version versus the Series X. The Series X have some errors, like some glitches where like the reflection is just not always there. And then the performance mode in Control, which is weird. I don't know if they ever updated it, but that's their true dubs is freaking Control and Dirt 5. I don't even know if Dirt 5 is still the way it is. That game got so many updates between the now and between launch and now, but so who even knows anymore? So right now people are running with like the Need for Speed thing, which is an old game with an additional mode. Outriders. Give me 1 second, guys. I'm a freaking. I gotta close my door right quick. Give me 1 second. I'm just trying to eliminate the sounds. Ouch. All right. Sorry about that. All right. Sorry about that. Okay. So, Addict, are we playing Outriders? Yes, we are. We will be playing Outriders. And so a lot of people, want to point to these like, CUs and clock speeds and all this other stuff. I don't think any of that has anything to do with anything. A lot of these games is all engine based. Like Unreal, Unity, different engines just does different things better on different consoles, and that's where optimization is needed. Right now, the Xbox currently with all those feature sets in this hardware, a lot of this shit is not being utilized outside of the basic spec. Like I want to say 60% of its exclusive features to the platform is not being utilized, and that's a fact. We already know this is not being used currently. It's not being used, right? So right now the Xbox is literally just doing this based off its just raw power that is running these games. Need for Speed is pretty much benchmarking a game right now currently. The way I look at it is like, yeah, PlayStation is doing some things better than Xbox on the performance side, but I feel like it's not that significant where I feel like I find myself frustrated. I don't find myself frustrated. I'll find myself frustrated when games aren't performing as they should. Like, for example, the medium being at 30 frames per second and not having like the ray tracing that you would think it had, being exclusive, freaking Watch Dogs being limited to 30 frames per second. Like, there's games that I get frustrated at where I know you can definitely get some drastic improvements out of. That's where the frustration comes in. I'm not mad if I'm playing a game and then at the back of my mind, I just learned 2 days later after playing it, oh, this part of the game ran 3 frames better on PlayStation. Oh, damn, what am I gonna do? What's going on at Xbox? Just like there's a couple things PlayStation 5 does better than Xbox currently at the moment, there's several things the Xbox Series X and S does better than the PS5. Right now, currently, the Xbox Series consoles are the king of 120 frames per second games. When you compare playing games at 120 frames per second, Xbox Series S and Xbox Series X more than doubles PS5 output of games. Some of these games are multiplats that exist on both platforms, right? And they only get 120 frames per second on Series X and S. Xbox, to my knowledge, right now is the only platform that has multiple games at 4K at 120 frames per second at the same time. It is what it is. PlayStation might have more ray tracing games. Xbox has more 120 frames per second games. I mean, and so we already know Xbox is capable. And then when you consider, like, let's think about it. Like, we could point to Need for Speed. You guys could say, oh, the PlayStation 5 is better, or Xbox is not as powerful as we think. But then you gotta look at a game like Forza Horizon, which is newer than Need for Speed. And when I say newer, not newer in terms of release, in terms of like engine, the game build, because what the consoles got is just the PC version with slight tweaks for last gen. That's pretty much what it is. Same engine and shit like that, right? Fairly old game, right? So Forza Horizon, open world racing game, native 4K, 60 frames per second, locked. So we know the Xbox Series X is fucking capable, and S is capable of running this shit at Need for Speed, which is just a fucking circuit racer. Forza Horizon has a lot more assets loading in and terrain and shit that's random at any given point, because it's not like you have to load in, or like the game, you just driving it and conditions change. That's fine. So you look at Dirt 5, you look at Need for Speed, and then you look at Forza Horizon. So we know anything Xbox puts out, you're not going to have a frame rate issue. You're just not. If Xbox is doing Gears of War, Gears 5, Gears Tactics, fucking Ultimate Edition, you're not going to have it. Their 120 frames mode is damn near perfect. There's the game in its base mode at 60, perfect. So I don't want to hear that bullshit where those games are actually more demanding. They are more demanding than some of these games that they're just like, throwing out there. So you can look towards that, and then you can look towards the situations where Xbox at a system level, where pretty soon we're just going to be able to toggle if we want to play 60 frames per second on certain games that never had a 60 frames per second option. And this small sample size of games that got a 60 FPS boost, they're pretty much locked. So I'm not upset. There's already, as I said last July, the Xbox Series X will have more 120 frames per second games than the PS5, and they'll have more 60 frames per second games than the PS5. And at this rate, I am correct. Now, there's a select few games where PS5 does better, and there's select few games Xbox Series X does better. The thing that Xbox Series X is doing better in a lot of these cross-gen games or these BC Plus games is that the PS5, their only really boost is really the frame rates, but they're not getting a res boost, they're not getting a texture boost. The Series X is getting the HDR boost, the fucking resolution boost, they're getting texture filtering boost. So the games are just not only are they going to get their natural frame rate boost with these next gen BC Plus games, but now they're getting the visual upgrades on top of it, and it just turns out to be just a better overall experience. So, I mean, is the console being underutilized? Yes. Am I disappointed in the console's performance? No, not at all. Not right now. I mean, considering where we came from, last gen, where games 27 frames per second, and you telling me I need to be mad at like 58 frames? Nah, I'm good. Especially if I can't notice it. If you guys can, invest into a FreeSync monitor or a VR monitor or VR TV, because these little frame rates that these dudes are joking around and laughing at and twerking their little asses to in these comparison videos, you're not going to fucking notice. Even, I'm sorry, but 2 to 3 frames on a regular display without VR, you're not going to notice unless that shit is screen tearing all over the place. And then you'll notice, you'll see that shit. You'll see screen tearing. You can't hide screen tearing. But it's not that serious. And I think you guys are letting these guys get you worked up and getting you upset, and you're finding yourself complaining about shit you didn't even know was a problem. Didn't even know it was a problem. Before any of these Outriders comparisons came out, people thought they were playing the smoothest game possible. But now once they learn, oh my God, it's a placebo effect. Oh my God, the PlayStation 5 doing it better. Oh my God, this is horrible. Like, dude, no, it's not. The game was just playing just fine. Yeah, numbers wise, when you look at it and you go back and record your gameplay and you download a frame rate counter, it'll tell you, but you didn't notice that. Only time you're gonna notice if it's fucking a drastic, clunky, stuttery mess. And unfortunately, there are some experiences like that on the Series S where you do get that shit. Like Outriders on the Series S wasn't, like I said, as smooth as it should. But then again, some people had better experience than I did, because the monitors I'm playing on didn't have VRR, but I thought it wasn't as smooth as the Series X version. But yeah, that's my take on it, my thoughts on these comparisons that everybody are like kind of getting themselves worked up about. They're getting worked up for absolutely nothing. I don't think the PS5 is better than the Series X in any shape or form, honestly. It's a good console. I don't think anything's wrong with it. But in terms of comfort, playing games on it, I don't feel like I'm missing out on something. I feel like, oh damn, I could be having a much better time if I'm playing on a PlayStation 5. I thought my biggest takeaway from coming into this next generation, I thought what would happen would be that PS5 will shit on the Xbox on load times with some of these games. I was like, that's gonna be the thing where like, damn, like they really killed us with load times. And it's been such a, if you're not playing a PlayStation exclusive, like a PlayStation only game, your load times in most cases is actually slower by a couple of seconds than the Series X and S, which is weird. So I'm not disappointed in the Xbox performance so far. Do I think devs can do a better job? Yes, because I feel like they have a lot more to work with. I feel like they're not doing it. Now, there's going to be some more L's. There's going to be some L's that I expect. Like, for example, the L's that I expect to come up, and this is not like preemptive damage control. I do expect Yakuza to be better on a PS5, which is going to hurt some people because I think the game is like 1440p 60 on the Series X and 4K 30 on this resolution mode. And I think the PS5 is actually going to be running at 4K 60. Now, remember, Like a Dragon was the launch title for the Series X. I don't know what the explanation or excuse would be, but if that's the case, I mean, personally, I don't care, because I feel like you don't play the game enough. I haven't played the game enough to warrant what its performance is like, because I feel like the story is just too much in a fucking story with the dialogue that I can never get to gameplay, and it drives me nuts. But yeah, I think that's going to be an upcoming L. Marvel's Avengers, I expect to be an L, and not an L in the sense to the point like, oh my God, this is the PlayStation 5 is going to be drastically better. I think what's going to happen is, the Series X is going to obviously, it has, is running a native resolution. PlayStation is running like a checkerboard resolution, and they have a graphics mode and a performance mode. So they got multiple modes, but I think their performance mode, hey, it just might edge out the Xbox, since the Xbox is doing everything at native 4K. They're doing it at a compromised 4K, but their smart shift has proven to be efficient enough. So I won't be surprised where there'd be instances in Avengers where it's at 57 frames per second on a Series X and fucking 59 or 60 frames per second on a PS5. I won't be surprised. I will not. But it is what it is. It's like, is that an L to you? Is that unacceptable to you when you're playing this game on your 65-inch TV and just knowing mentally, oh damn, the PS5 is running this particular part 3 frames better. I need to get it over there. You gotta ask yourself that. Only way you should be mad at any of these performance these differences where PS5 edges the Series X in some cases, only real reason you should be mad is if your sole purpose of getting these next gen consoles was it that the console you get edges out the other one in performance. Like if that was your only purpose of getting these consoles, then you have the right to be truly upset and disappointed, and you should request a refund because you have not got a return on your 3 frames per second metric. That's just my opinion. Personally, me, I don't care. You ask me, I just assume games just run better on the Xbox. Unless the only games that don't run better on the Xbox are PlayStation games. And PlayStation, they do a good job with their games. But all the other shit, like the trade-offs, I mean, there's obviously trade-offs. A lot of these comparisons, the crazy thing is nobody cares about what the visual differences, and they care that PlayStation in this scenario is able to get 3 frames better. But I know where it's come from, obviously, with the power narrative and whatnot. Is it warranted? Probably, but you guys can't get mad. I don't think you should be able to upset. I can't see myself getting mad at these slight comparisons because we're looking at worst case scenarios, we're looking at minimum differences, and the crazy thing is the games will get patched next week to update to fix the other one, and nobody got shit to say. They want to run away and talk about the next game. They should really do a comparison with every upgrade, or not with every upgrade, with every patch, but they won't. They only treating Cyberpunk that way because Cyberpunk is, it's the darling and everybody can't wait for the game to be fixed, so they're just hoping with every update the game is fixed, and it's not. So that's what that's why Cyberpunk gets these patch updates in every case scenario, where other games, when they get patched to work better on a PS5 or to work better on a series, they're not getting more coverage because people already made up their mind. They got their token screenshot and that's it. All right, now I can answer questions before I get out of here. Oh my God, my background is loud. You said, Albert, you kiss move. Did the Xbox Series X live up to the hype when performing multi-plats that these fake Xbox testers said it would? Yes, it did. In my opinion, it did actually. Because games, I already have more than enough examples. There's several games on the Series X that exists on Series and PS5 that are only 120 frames per second on the Series X. I don't care about the technical reason for it. It is what it is. That's just the facts. That's a dub. There's games, right, that got next gen upgrades where the Series X just visually look better. Sure, it may in some sections lose by a frame or two in the section area, but it's still hitting its target and it's doing it at a better resolution and better visuals. So no, to answer your question, I'll repeat. You said, did Xbox Series X live? Yes, it lived up to the hype because I thought I was bullshitting when I said Xbox Series X would have more 120 frames per second, and it turned out to be true. All right. Paul, he says, my Xbox Series X should hopefully be here tomorrow. Hype. Make sure you add me, Paul. The gamer tag is Kid Smooth. Oh, man. What else we got? Shout out to 142 you guys watching. All you guys need to show up to Let's Talk Games tomorrow, 7 o'clock. Me and Notorious Dre. And it'd be helpful if a lot of you guys show up to play the Xbox. But, here you go. Oh man, I can't. Wrong timing. Give me 1 second, guys. Okay, no, you're good. Just don't.
I'm trying to tell you something that happened.
Okay, so that's what you want to really tell me? All right. There we go. All right. Whoa, okay, cool. Albert, again, he says Xbox was supposed to perform way better, though not a little better, by what these Xbox experts say in their podcast, performance delta. Yeah, you guys keep holding your hat to that. Damn, my kids are going crazy. You guys keep holding your hat to that performance delta, but according to you guys, games on PlayStation are supposed to load way faster than the Xbox Series X and the Xbox Series S, and they're getting beat on load time. So sure, I mean, you can look at the power specs. They're both RDNA 2. They both got AMD based 16 gigs or RAM. You know, Xbox clock PlayStation's clock speeds are faster. Xbox clock CPU gigahertz are, I think, like slightly higher or some shit like that. It is what it is. I mean, they're relatively close, but at the end of the day, the numbers favoring Xbox in terms of raw power. It is what it is. Like, it's not translating in every game, but eventually it will. And when it does, I mean, just keep the same energy. But right now, I mean, these minor differences, it's funny. They're funny. Why is my kids yelling every 5 seconds? Game Forte says, yo, Kid Smooth, I got a hot one for you. Why do you love Tom Brady so much? Is he better than Xbox? Asking for a friend. Tom Brady is the greatest quarterback or NFL player of all time. I'm a big Tom Brady. The things Tom Brady, LeBron James, Xbox. That's Tupac. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's something special about each of them. A censored thought. LTG, you said you need someone who represents the opposing argument. Well, the LTG is not a debate show, and it's not more so really like, oh, Xbox versus PlayStation. It's just a matter of just me and Drake play a lot of games, and we play for a period of time. We were playing a lot of the same games, and we just had conversations about them in DMs or over the phone or in or in Discord. I was like, this will translate better in a podcast. Just us two talking about games that we're playing. So it wasn't meant to be a debate show. Minor differences that show up in most or all arguments that shows PS5 works better. Well, no, that's actually not the case. Not all and not most. So you don't have to like take fraudulent ones. He said, put respect on Jordan's name. Nah, man. I mean, I'm sure Jordan's great, but I got to witness LeBron James just like I got to witness Tom Brady. I didn't witness Jordan. When Jordan was dominating, I was watching Rugrats and Doug and Hey Arnold. I'm sorry. You have points, but still Xbox Series X is supposed to be a better performing console for multiplus. That's all. Actually, it's not. It has the capability. It's here's the thing, right? PlayStation isn't going nowhere. It's very, very, very popular. People want to make sure their games run as good as it can on PlayStation next gen. So some of these publishers and developers will prioritize PlayStation, especially if they're familiar with the hardware. Look at this. PlayStation, developers were in love with PS5 development kits because it wasn't that far different from the PS4 development kit, and the transition between the two was seamless. So it just allowed them to work effectively. Xbox dev kits came in hot, they came in late, and there was new things that they had to work with. It wasn't like they were taking an existing Xbox One dev kit and doing the same shit. So with that being said, I mean, the foundation for a lot of these games was PlayStation. The next gen version is the PlayStation. All right, we're gonna take this code and see how it goes on the Xbox code. And like I said, they're not taking advantage of a lot of these issues that, like, for example, where frame rates and stuff would drop, or texture. You know how earlier there was like these texture streaming. There should never be with these consoles. Texture streaming should be a thing of the past on PS5 and Xbox Series X, of us being able to see it visually. Should be a thing because they have shit in their system that's for that issue. So and you know it's not being used. So no, the little all multi-plus is supposed to look and run better. Both the consoles, how I look at it is both the consoles are capable of 4K. They're capable of 60 frames per second, And you know, whatever the target is, if they're gonna do dynamic resolution on all these games, which that's what they're doing, it's always gonna be a skew. But yeah, some games will show best on the Series X. I don't know why the gap between the Series X and the PS5 is not as large as the gap between the Xbox One X and the PS4 Pro, or hell, I don't even know if it's as large as the gap between the One and the PS4. So do I expect Series X to come out on top in some of these scenarios? I mean, yeah, in scenarios, whether it be resolutions or frame rates, I figure one or the other, yeah. But right now, technically, based on my expectations, I already, the stuff that I said would happen is already happening. 120 frames per second on games, on more games. Xbox has already more of those, and they have more of those on multi-platform where PlayStation doesn't. Sorry. Do you think there should be adjusted achievement gamer scores, like how a 1 hour game shouldn't be worth the same score as a 30-hour game? I think I'm not sure. Back in the day, there was a cap. Back in the day, during the 360 days, arcade games, the max was like 200, and then it got up to maybe 400 or 500. And then I think during the Xbox One generation is when all indie games kind of had the same gamer score option as AAA games. So I think what they can do is they need to offer like sort of badges with some of the games that you played to make it stand out. Put a badge or something like a badge of honor next to your gamer tag, like something to represent like some of the titles that you did beat. There's things they can do to improve it, but there's some things that Xbox come up with, and I feel like this Upload Studio achievements right now, they're kind of just resting on their laurels. They gave up on Upload Studio. They're not doing anything more to enhance achievements, and I think there's opportunity to do so. With representation, there's opportunities to take achievements like on some real shit, like so. Or they could put a level next to your name, like, you know, based off all the achievements you got. You know, this is a hard game, so this is worth, even though you get 1,000 gamer score, the completion rate percentage or the completion badge you get for this game is going to put you at a certain rank or a certain level. Versus, let's say, if I complete Kill It With Fire, you know, this little you know, spider game. If I complete this, you know, it wouldn't be worth that much, you know what I mean? So it's same scenario. I mean, so but good question though. You said I predict Xbox consoles will stop being made before this gen is over. Are you still going to be Xbox gamer, or will you can do a stream on a Game Pass? No, once consoles go away, I'm done. I'm not going to game like that anymore. I figure if consoles go at the rate and like just kind of age out with me, if there's no consoles after this generation, I just won't be gaming like that. I really won't. Like my gaming experiences is tied to console gaming. That's it. Streaming is cool, but I can't game mobile like I can game like sitting down on TV. Like I can put hours sitting down on a TV or a computer. I can't put hours standing at a bus stop. Know what I mean? Or like gaming. I don't think you can. I don't know if it's really comfortable like that. I can't consume gaming that way. It's cool for like a quick lunch break, but like the way that I play games, I couldn't do mobilely. So I couldn't rely on it to be my only source of gaming. Oh my god! All right, guys, give me 1 second. Oh man, do I have another like? Do I have a banner? Give me 1 second, guys. Give me 1 second. And that. All right, though. I do think that's my cue because I keep getting interrupted. So that's literally probably my cue to get off and probably play some games where it wouldn't matter if I'm interrupted or not. Any questions before I get out of here? 50 minutes. This was actually going to be a 22-minute video, but I found myself like stuttering and not making sense. So. Is Xbox going away of Stadia? No, it's not. If Xbox is smart, they would know not to. It's not ready. Game streaming is not ready to become a mainstream or to infiltrate console gaming. That's why Stadia is failing. That's why Luna is having problems. Keep xCloud supplementary. Make it an extension to the current experience. Just another way to play when you can't access your PC or your Xbox. And just be your temporary solution for whatever you're doing until you are able to get back to your console. So, all right, make sure you hit that like button. I will see you guys, tomorrow on Let's Talk Games podcast. Or if anybody wants to smoke in Madden, I'm down to stream that. And it's on Game Pass. No excuses. No excuses. No excuses. No excuses, man. And yeah. Oh yeah, be careful buying those Xboxes from those, private, sellers and stuff. They will rip you off. They will rob you. I'm in the process of trying to get my $550 back because I was scammed for Xbox Series X. Trying to buy a second one, but it's tough. All right, guys, we out of here.